The amount of texts, the amount of texts that I'm getting like, wait, what happened in the fourth quarter? I went to sleep. What happened in the fourth quarter? A classic between, I mean, is this an AFC championship? It might as well be between the two MVP faves, the Super Bowl faves to represent the AFC potentially. Buffalo is unbelievable, delivered on every bit of the hype. Ed Oliver, oh my goodness, an instant classic. We'll get into last night's action. We have a Hall of Famer on the show, Cris Carter. He does not hold back. He keeps it very real. He knows what he's talking about. He's not only going to hit me all the top storylines from yesterday, but we've got such a good bow tie. Little bunny ears to loop through it between the Vikings and the Bears. We're going to take a peek at that one for you too. The Ben Johnson of it all. So many questions will begin to be answered. Let's not forget, week one was week one, and then we're on to week two already between the Commanders and the Packers on Thursday night. We've got it all. What a start to the year. What a freaking start to the year from last Thursday night. Matthew Hamilton, you can hop in here. We just had a 2-hour long production meeting. I think that's a record for our show. Much needed. I was happy to do it because everyone has their own opinions. There's so many, so much to talk about, so much beautiful theater, some beautiful catches last night. DeAndre will get into it. Isaac Tesla. Insane one-handed grab. If you want to know about, there's a player that y'all are seeing out there doing their thing in the NFL, and you're like, oh, I don't really know him. Please go subscribe to the Up and Adams YouTube page because there's almost a 100% chance that we have talked to that player. We bang out these interviews, revolving door, one by one. They're at rookie premiere. I'm in a car for an hour and a half to try to get this interview with the Isaac Teslas to sort of anticipate and feel the vibes for what a debut like that's going to look like. Now, of course, the Lions didn't get it done, but that's about as good of a catch as you're going to see from any position, any player, any level, any experience with Tesla, who told me he was going to Lambeau leap. Didn't. That's okay. They were down by a ton and he made the right decision. But if you want to know about some of these nuances, please go look at these interviews. It's all there. There were so many moments yesterday. I was so freaking proud of our show, Matthew, because I was like, got that. Got that. Loved that. Loved that. Was I wrong about a couple of things? Sure. But was I mainly, did I think Daniel Jones was going to get named the starter and do what he did yesterday? Yeah. I did. Did I think Lou Anarumo was going to have the pieces and the personnel to do what he did? Yes. Sure. Those little things we hop around. Absolutely. And we'll get into our thoughts for tonight as well. But what stuck out to you? We'll of course dig into tonight, but anything else you want to hit outside of our 2-hour meeting? We should just put those on YouTube.
I know. But I was going to say too, even the players that we didn't talk to personally, like you talked to Matt LaFleur about Evan Williams and he comes up with a big interception. So there's all that stuff too. And Edgerrin Cooper having a big game. But yeah, I just I know I recently week one's a liar. You can't overreact. No, I'm in. I'm buying into all the hype about everybody. I'm shot out of a cannon. This is as good as it gets for a week one.
Week one's a liar was a Kyle Brantism, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, forever he would say that, and he's probably not wrong. And I think there's a lot to that, and we'll see what happens tonight, of course, between the Vikings and the Bears, which I cannot wait to see. And we have this whole Ty Dunn puts out this piece talking about Caleb Williams, potentially his level of accountability and what did not happen or what went wrong last year. I'm so excited to get Cris Carter's thoughts on these Bears going forward. Chicago fans, Lions fans, Vikings fans tonight. Do you have any questions for Cris Carter? Hit us up. I think when that DeAndre catch happened, our thing went off and we were like, oh, we got to ask Cris Carter about this. What was the best catch of the week? What was it? Yeah, it might have been by J.C. Horn of the Panthers. Let's dig into all of it, but let's start with what happened last night, which was absolutely insane. So they're down 15. The Buffalo Bills are, okay, right? There's less than 5 minutes to play, and they come back in an epic fashion that we will not forget. We will be talking about this in January and February. And this is a night where it is just like you work so hard, you do something, and then there's a rain delay, or the game gets canceled, or whatever. You work so hard on a paper, and you're at the deadline, and your teacher decides to give you an extension for 2 months. It was a waste. It was a waste situation because Lamar with a near perfect passer rating, he and Derrick Henry looked unstoppable. Okay. They were combining to average 10 yards a carry. It was insane. The Bills still somehow pull this off. Josh doesn't miss down the stretch. He combines for over 400 yards, 4 scores, showing us why he's the MVP. Keon Coleman He looked like a number one, didn't he? Can't tell me he did. And he was so clutch. 95 of 112 yards were in the fourth quarter alone, where you need him to be clutch. And none of this happens without that insane touchdown grab. It was unbelievable. And it also doesn't happen without the guy who I am toasting my coffee to this morning. And it's Ed Oliver, who was he the best player in this game? He makes this early entry and campaign into the DPOY conversation, like F you, FanDuel Sportsbook and pundits and talking heads. I belong here. He had a sack. He had 3 TFLs. He strips Derrick Henry. And none of that happens without this. That was where the game flipped on its head, and then momentum becomes a thing. Oh, we can do this. We're going to do this. Don't tell me momentum isn't maybe one of the more important things in winning a freaking football game. Cris Carter, Hall of Famer, will join me. We'll talk about this. It shifted the energy, and away we go. And this is like sort of like a little, like what you put on the slide in biology class and stick it under the microscope and you look in it, and that's what you find. That's what this team is under Sean McDermott and under the stewardship of maybe the best player in the league, the reigning best player in the league for sure, Josh Allen. Okay. Every time they get punched in the mouth and knocked down, that's what pops off the slide for me. Okay. They just get right back up and they hit you even harder. And the way that the season ended, that did not break them. We can have questions about the Chiefs with that. We have 2 bad games now with the Chiefs, the last taste in our mouths, not with Josh Allen. Okay. It looks like it fueled them even more. It made them better, more resilient. Didn't happen. I don't think we can say that about the Lions. The way they lost, they were heartbroken all season. What did they come out and look like? Can't say that about them. I think that's a huge factor here is the sort of, speaking of momentum, even just the carryover from last year, the questions, we don't have them. I have expectations for the Bills. And now they've got this cute little head start over the Ravens and over the Chiefs in the standing. Let's take a look at it right now. They are your Super Bowl favorites, newly inked Super Bowl favorites as of this morning on FanDuel Sportsbook. They jumped the Ravens and Eagles at plus 650. The Chiefs dropped to 5th and at plus 1,000 right now. And I know the only thing that's going to matter this year for Buffalo is what happens in January, as we can say about like 4 or 5 teams in the league. But this was a hell of a way to set the tone for what's about to come and for what actually matters. And as for the Ravens, man, and Ravens fans, you have the same expectations, but it's the same freaking story. It's the same story. And it's, oh man, I don't know what we're going to do. What are we going to do, guys? What are we going to do, Ravens fans? This is not the first, not the second. It is the 12th time that they've lost a game in which they have a double-digit lead in the last 5 years alone. Okay. Last 5 years alone, 12 times. That is enough to make you want to pull your hair out. Okay. That's a nightmare scenario. That's what we had. You had a nightmare. How'd you guys sleep last night, Ravens fans? Knowing, like, just watching that. So much of the world went to sleep thinking you probably didn't. You probably know what's on the table or what's possible in the fourth quarter, and having this happen 12 times is crazy. And you have this incredible, these pieces, this great run game, this defense, they've done personnel wise. Like, I got to give it to them. You've done everything you possibly can to close out games. You built for, let's close out games. Let's add these pieces. But what happens to this team? Tough one to swallow. Ham, I'll get you in here. I know we have Cris Carter. Is what I'm saying clocking? Like as the kids say, like what can you answer in your best? What happens to this team in those moments? Because they're certainly built differently.
Yeah, it just looks to me like they get tight in some of these moments. They kind of take the air out of things. They get super conservative. Seeing Zay Flowers slide down on that jet sweep, I would have loved to see him kind of press and try to pick up some more yards, even if it means him going out of bounds. The only way to take the Bills down, it wasn't going to be the clock. It was going to be picking up first downs. Yeah. And it just seems like it happens in these moments with them where they, they're so aggressive the rest of the game. And on both sides of the ball, they just get conservative when they get these leads in the fourth quarter. And I think that they need to change the approach a little bit here going forward. Ravens
have the Browns coming up next. So a nice chance to bounce back. They look pretty good up against those Bengals. We'll see what happens there. I want to get Chris. We have a legend with us. I can't wait to get, there's so much to go with Cris Carter here, but I do want to talk a little Lions Packers here. We'll get his thoughts on that, of course, and we'll preview Bears Vikings tonight as well. But this was like the game of the late afternoon slate, and everyone meaningful to me, of course, close to both teams, love them both. But what a beatdown at Lambeau. Okay. The Packers dominate. Talk about tone setting. Talk about sending a message from the jump. Jordan Love, so sharp. No turnovers, no sacks. Spread the ball. I was texting Hamilton last night. I go, he's hitting 10 different receivers on his 16 completions. This is unbelievable. The way the offense is balanced, like all these things, they can beat you in any way. And that has to be just really tough for a defense, right? Anybody who also, like any, my nephews who own all the Packers receivers in fantasy, stupidly, like what a dumb move by them to draft them, because it's so hard to figure everything out. But the story of this game for me is the Packers defense. And we can get to the Micah, and surely we'll get to Micah with Cris Carter in a moment here. But this is like, they came out and they said, what you've done to us so many times with Dan Campbell, and just saying, no, we're going to be so physical. We're going to have the attitude. LaFleur had them there. Hafley had them there. I mean, Micah Parsons, he was there. We all saw the sack, whatever. He was limited to 29 snaps, so it wasn't just him, but maybe it is something about his presence in the locker room. I can imagine if you're part of a company or part of a team or whatever, and they bring in this piece, it's to say, like, we can win the Super Bowl. What does that do to a room? Goody making that move, like, what does that do? They know they can win. They know their bosses think that they can win. They pushed Detroit around yesterday in a way that I haven't seen in a long time, and it was really just brilliant performance. 3.8 yards per play allowed, the fewest Detroit's 3.8 yards per play by Detroit. The fewest that they've put up in this rivalry since Stafford was there and a rookie in 2009. Jeff Hafley, if you consider Micah wasn't a full go yet and didn't have a stat until that sack on the Lions' final drive, like this was the youngsters that are popping, that the guys in Green Bay know about, like Edgerrin Cooper, his 12 tackles. We talked to LaFleur about Evan Williams. He had that pick. I was screaming at SoFi watching that go down. The D tackle, Colby Wooden. He sort of like takes the Kenny Clark spot. We've got, it's unbelievable. Packers fans, I do want to say this before we go to break. As your fan GM, we got you McKinney, we got you Micah, all of that. Let's keep the noise on Jeff Hafley down, okay? Because I think we got to like relax on the Jeff Hafley a little bit, because if he keeps this tone setting up, if this defense looks like this all season, like I'm going to have a tough time keeping him. As your fan GM, I don't know how I'm going to keep him in the building, and he's not going to be a head coach. So let's worry about that. Let's go to break here with these Packers odds as we look at this. Okay, I'm looking at FanDuel right now. Second best odds to win the NFC at plus 420. They're just behind the Eagles at plus 360. Lions slipped to fourth at plus 950. Wow. Rams, Commanders in a tie for fifth at plus 1,000. They got wins and took care of business yesterday. We're going to take a short break here and welcome in. I know he wants in. I'm so excited to have my guy, Cris Carter, join the show with his thoughts. Am I right about the Lions? Am I right about the Packers? We got the Vikings coming up. Skull Vikes. He's ready to go tonight against Chicago. Love that. Yeah, I would love to, if I could just get my thoughts on Steelers Jets out. Is that okay?
Let's do it.
I mean, okay, let's do this. Steelers Jets. Okay. Here we go. We got Aaron Rodgers. I saw him. I was at SoFi to watch Devontae Adams' debut. Puka crushed it yesterday. We'll talk about that with Cris Carter in a minute. Aaron Rodgers, I'm watching him on the screen. Looked awesome. 4 touchdown passes. They have a comeback win over the Jets. Fields looked great too. Aaron looks so good. Okay. The laser to Calvin Austin. Okay. Hey, where is that? There we go. It's unbelievable. Oh my gosh. I loved seeing it. He becomes the first. Let's see. There it is. Look at this laser. Gorgeous. We love seeing this. Beautiful. He becomes the first Steeler quarterback to throw for 4 scores since Big Ben did it 5 years ago. Okay. He does it against a loaded Jets defense that knows him. That's pretty impressive. And this is kind of what I was trying to make this, or I did make this sort of, I gave this perspective over the offseason, that when you are removed, there's a lot of evidence to this, that when you are a year away from an Achilles injury, it makes a difference. There's ups and downs from last year or whatever, but I felt like, just because of the stuff that happened with other injured players with that injury the second year, Hamilton, why can't I think of their names? Who else had those injuries? Was it not Manning? Manning had a different injury.
Yeah, so we looked at like quarterbacks that had suffered catastrophic injuries the year before, like Brady coming off that season-ending ACL injury. The next year, he wasn't quite the same. Peyton Manning off the neck injury the first year back, he wasn't quite the same.
There wasn't another Achilles?
No, we had looked at just like, severe injuries, season-ending injuries that quarterbacks had suffered. And
Oh, anyway, what I was trying to say is that being a year removed from a catastrophic injury makes a difference. I thought it was more about Achilles, but it wasn't. But that's okay because I think it has to do with that. And he posted a single game, like best passer rating that he had in like 3 years, which is amazing. Steelers, sure, like plenty to clean up. Maybe wasn't the best like defensive performance or whatever, but look at this. Look at these AFC North odds right now. Okay. Pittsburgh, as of this morning, a clear third in the AFC North odds. They're behind the Ravens and the Bengals at plus 470. They're eighth to win the AFC at plus 2,200. I will say this morning, that is insane value. Go watch that vintage Rodgers performance. I'm telling you, really nice. And I do want to say, Justin Fields, we are excited for you. The way he and Brees and Garrett and the whole offense looked, I was excited. I like the stewardship of their coach as well. And it makes me excited for Ben Johnson and Caleb tonight.
From 32 yards, Prater made it! And the Bills open their final season in this stadium with a stunning comeback win.
Collinsworth and Tirico and fans on both sides and around the country are like, what just happened? Well, to answer that, we bring in the biggest mind I can think of. 8-time Pro Bowl receiver, Pro Football Hall of Famer, and co-host of the Fully Loaded podcast. You're going to have, of course, all of your thoughts with Sean, with your friend Sean Mike. But I do want to say, welcome to the show. Week 1 was crazy, not finished yet. Bills down 15, Cris Carter. Under 5 minutes. What happens to the Ravens in the fourth?
Well, the same thing that's happened to them in most critical situations, especially the last 2 years in the playoffs, where their best players, when you needed them not to perform super, just an average job. Zay Flowers 2 years ago, last year with the tight end and Lamar, and then now Derrick Henry coming off a historic game. I mean, when you start looking at those all-season tapes that Chris Collins and them were talking about during the game, it's like, wow, at 31, he might be even better than he was last season. And then to fumble the football. That's one of the things, a short field, a turnover, that's the only way they're going to lose that game. So now they got a short field to be able to get a short score in a quick period of time because they need 2 of them. But you can't have your best players in the most critical of situations not perform, not up to the level that we're used to seeing, but on the level of even an average player.
The Ravens punt on 4th and 3 from their own 32. There was 1:33 to go. There's this cramping thing that they talked about after, that Lamar was cramping or that they would have pushed to go for it. A lot of people saying that's when you close it out if you're Baltimore. What do you think Harbaugh should have done?
I think in that situation, everyone is very, very different. But their whole approach to the season was, we're going for everything. Like, we're going to be ultra aggressive. But with early in the season, all guys are dealing with it. We haven't played a whole bunch in the preseason, and we can't practice enough to really get in game shape. And given the amount of mobility that he had during the game, that's a real thing. So you can't just say, oh, no, when your best guy who's going to give you multiple options, I'm going to ignore the medical part of it. But the problem is he hasn't, and I listened to you earlier, Harbaugh has been absent on the sideline the last 4 or 5 years because you can't have that number of leads and be that good of a coach and punt and be like, hey, I'm happy with punting to our defense. This is not Ed Reed. This is not my boy Ray Ray. Like, they are just a shadow of themselves. All those first-round draft picks, 5 first-rounders in the secondary, multiple other first-round picks on the defensive line and linebackers. Like, I'm concerned about their whole defensive system, and not last night, but what I've seen the last several years. And I tried to look it up, but to me, maybe your expert information staff, I know, but around the same time that they departed with Wink Martindale, their defense has started to change. And since then, like, what's their identity been? Like, what's it been? Okay, last year they got to the passer. But, like, what's it been? Turnovers. Like, if I'm Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh, I'm so excited to get this version of the Baltimore defense because it's not a version that he's going to ever want to see. But they don't have an identity as a defense. And when you don't have an identity, that's going to dictate going forward more on fourth down, even if your quarterback is compromised, which they said Lamar was last night.
We got problems with the defense. Love that. There's the cramping. I mean, look, it just sucks because it's like such a wasted moment. Like Lamar looked near perfect. And there's not like, you can't wake up this morning and there's nothing like, could Lamar have done anything differently or better?
Well, you got to kill Josh Allen when you get a chance. Like, you got to put a stake through his heart, shoot him with a silver bullet, all those things they kill those Michigan. Like, you got to kill that guy. Jeez. And they just needed one more first down. And a lot of times when you're in that situation, it's not about scoring, but if we get one more first down, that's going to eat up another 2.5 minutes. And then even if we get another set of downs and we punt, they got to go the distance. And they're going to have to do that multiple times, and there's not enough time on the clock. And Baltimore's defense wasn't that bad, but if you give them a short field, their defense was not putting the type of pressure on Josh and not the type of coverage that you expect to see on the type of receivers that Buffalo have. Like, they're supposed to have better coverage than what they did last night.
A big part of the story last night, which sort of sucks, but it's the discourse on Twitter this morning, was this shove after D-Hop's, insane, beautiful touchdown, which you can maybe speak to. I don't know if we have it queued up here for you, but we certainly have what happened afterwards. You know, a fan reaches over the wall, shoves Lamar, stupid. Lamar gives him a pushback. Also, I don't know how you feel about that. What did you make of this? Because everyone is sort of arguing about what's right, what's not right. Your thoughts on this, Chris?
No, for one, where people, they've never been in the professional spot. Most of us have been fans, so we can understand the fan, but we should have no type of empathy for a fan that comes onto the field, especially trying to touch the opposition. Like, you know that's a no-no. And in football, you have to go out of your way in those seats to be able not only touch me on my head, but touch one of my teammates on my head. Like, you know that's a no-no. So I can understand what Lamar, I know where Lamar's from. I'm in South Florida right now. I'm about 15 minutes of where he's from. And where he's from, they're about that action. and grabbing him on his helmet at any time. Lamar, he didn't forget where he was. Like, I like his answer and everything in the press conference and everything. But that's not what you're supposed to do. That's not what fans are supposed to be about. You can yell, you can say stuff, you can do, but when you put your hands and actually touch one of my teammates and then you decide to touch myself, like, there's going to be an issue. I have no problem with the way he responded. It was quick and decisive, get off me, don't touch me. And he didn't make the point any bigger than that. And I like the way he addressed it, after the game, as if, yes, it did happen. And in that moment, he acted a little bit out of character, but we are human. And I'm definitely happy with his action. I'm sure the NFL and the league office, my guy Troy Vincent, and they'll be satisfied with his action and reaction with the press conference afterwards also.
So no fine, no, this isn't like a disciplined moment for the NFL.
No, what are they going to fine him for? Because somebody grabbed my helmet? Like, they're going to fine me for that? For the natural reaction?
I would imagine there's no discourse about like just liability of it, like, because where do you draw? I don't know. That's like,
well,
I guess
there's no liability. It would have been liability if Lamar goes into the stands and pushes someone and they get injured. But when someone propels themselves into your space, I don't think there's a liability standpoint. We know there's a lot of things with the National Football League. It's a huge, huge business. But in that situation, I think they're fairly safe. I know we've done some idiotic things as players and everything, but this wouldn't be one of them. So I'm with Lamar on this. I don't think it'll be a big deal.
Yeah, because there is a part of the internet that is saying like that he didn't have to shove him, but I think what you're saying, which I really
well, no one's been in that position before. Like,
right.
no one, you don't know that. So try to be empathetic of both sides. I'm in the game. There's a lot of emotion. That catch is going to get me someplace because that's what Hop does. You're in Buffalo to make that type of play. At this point in his career, it's either championship or bust. For Nuke, like, no. We're trying to celebrate together, and they did it in a form or fashion that wasn't unsportsmanlike. So,
and I think, well, you're close to that. You've been there, done that, but you also are close to the league part. And you mentioned Troy, and like, I like here, it seems like the handling of the post-game presser is maybe more important than fans think, and like what his, just like the way that he spoke about it. And now we can move on. See that, internet? We just close that chapter and we move right on.
Yeah,
I do
I
want to
think
ask you.
well, being one of the marquee players, and our players have a great deal of training on and off the field. And Lamar has been so generous with who he is as a person and his whole persona, his image and everything. Like, he is a big energy. He is a hell of a leader. And to me, I thought one thing of it was kind of protective of D Hop. And then the other thing was reactionary because now you didn't touch me. Now you didn't grab my helmet the same way you grabbed him. Like, no, that's not getting ready to happen. And I think that was the only way of letting the person know that what you're doing is not right.
Yeah. Stop touching players. And then I think there's like also like a stop expecting players to not react as humans. I think that there's like almost like an entitlement a little bit, like, oh, we're not going to get or
I'm not
precedent.
going to tell
I
people
don't know how
to understand the energy that's going on, but at least be fan enough to understand the energy that you have when you go to a game. Like, I've been in a lot of championship atmospheres, and I'm a fan, man. I'm a huge fan. And things can get out of control, but I realize who I am, so I watch what I do. If I feel like things are getting out of control, I'm gonna put myself in a space where I'm not on video and everything, because I can act a fool too, just like anybody else.
Let's move on to Lions Packers. I know that you heard my thoughts. I'd like to ask you, there's a lot of concern, this division, what the hopes that this Lions team had last year, the idea that they're going to be okay losing Ben Johnson, all of that. What is your biggest concern with the Lions offense after yesterday?
My biggest concern is expectations. I remember in Minnesota when we broke the NFL record in 1998 after we drafted Moss, and Brian Billick, he goes to Baltimore after we lose the NFC Championship game. And we had some potent offenses after that, but we never got back to the level that Brian had us operating and the identity that he had as far as run, pass, and what we could do, our screen game. And when Brian went to Baltimore, he had to be honest, and having conversations with him was, Chris, I could never duplicate what you guys did in the players that I, acquired in Baltimore. I could never do that either. So it's not just like location, but you really have the skill set. And he really had that. Ben Johnson in Detroit, the skill set, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a tight end, and Jared Goff, who was coming from Sean McVay's system. So a lot of times people don't look at all the ingredients that Ben had to cook with. Now, he's got great ingredients there in Chicago, but can he cook up the same type of meal with a young quarterback? That's why we'll be tuned in tonight. But the absence of Ben Johnson in Detroit, to me, it's huge. And I think probably the biggest effect is going to have on Johnny Morton. As a young play caller, a lot of people out there know Johnny and they're pulling for him. But to who you follow in life, just like the guy following Nick Saban down there in Alabama, he's finding out, well, they pay me a lot of money. But following someone who is really good or excellent or the best at their craft, it's hard to do. And that's what Detroit and Dan Campbell are going to have to do. They got to get a new identity. Their front, their center, their 2 guards are all new. You can't run the ball the way they ran over people the last 2 years with those new people. Their tackles and stuff are still very good. Taylor Decker, on the left side, and they got one of the best right tackles, the best tackles, best athletes in the NFL. So what's going to be my identity with this group of players? Some of them are the same, but there's a few different ones. And I think that is the key to Johnny Morton in Detroit having success and having it early in the season.
What I wanted to say there is, if they have the same ingredients, why can't they make the same meal? But you just went through some of the changes that they do have, including big ones with the trenches. But, maybe it's like, don't try to use the same recipe, find a new one, right? You're saying they have to find sort of a new identity. Will they be able to do this when the Packers are looking like what they're looking like? And I do think, I wonder how much of the attitude that we saw, I know it's Dan Campbell, but how much of the confidence that this team had last year was in the fact that anytime they got down last year, Ben had a little something. He had a little paprika in his pocket, and he'd go deep and he'd pull it out at the right time. The mastery, right, of using that play, whatever it is, that magic moment where he's got, one of his wide receivers throwing the ball, a trick play, whatever it is, they knew they had that. And even if they leave the recipe book for Morton, who was there last year, and there is continuity and all of that, like that's what the play calling is, what makes you a master, right?
I think the play calling and being familiar with your personnel, like what Detroit is building wasn't built overnight. Remember 3 seasons ago when they beat Green Bay to finish the season? Remember that when Green Bay had to win that game and Detroit went to Green Bay and beat them? That was the beginning of building this monster, besides the press conference when Dan talked about we're going to be biting ankles and everything. Like, really? No, we're going to be biting ankles. So they built this up. When you have Aaron Glenn and he takes things out the door, not only just the defensive scheme, but he takes people out the door. Ben Johnson, he goes out the door. He goes in the division. So there's going to be an adjustment, and the toughest game playing in Lambeau Field against that crowd week number 1. It's like, so let's just not jump off the Detroit bandwagon, but they were doing things at a record-breaking pace the last 2 years, a spectacular fashion, and just got tripped up last year with all the injuries. It got caught up to them, but did their window close when Ben left and they got upset in the playoffs last year? That's going to be a real question in 5 or 6 weeks if they're not looking like the Detroit offensively that we've seen the last several years.
What I remember of the game that you're talking about is it was like Rodgers' goodbye, right? It was like the last game with Aaron, the way that they looked, like I remember that part, and that's enlightening. But then I'm thinking, like, how do that? You're saying let's not write them off. There's this fear that like they're going to become the post Super Bowl winning Eagles who lost their coordinators, or the 2017 Falcons when that happened. How do they not become that?
Well, I think that Dan Campbell, what he's established there, and especially with Jared Goff as the quarterback, Jared's been through some adversity, and they're a talented football team. And you can't lose in Green Bay because they've dominated the division and just throw your season away. Oh, man, but good check though. See where are we true to the talent that we have. Not someone who's calling plays offensively and defensively. And I think if Johnny and that offensive coaching staff, if they get back to, okay, how can we create a new identity? I don't have all those trick plays. And even if he does a trick play, everyone's going to say, oh, now he's trying to copy what he's doing. So Johnny, just be yourself, whatever that's going to be. And you need to create an identity as far as the Detroit Lions before we get out of the month of September, what your identity is going to be, because with the schedule and the teams we have in the North, Chicago, the Vikings, and of course, you saw the Packers, and the Packers are only going to get better. Their young receivers are only going to get better. If Love stays consistent, that defense, by Halloween, it's going to be ugly. Like it's going to be, it's going to be ugly. So that division will be so exciting until week number 18.
Losing Ragnow, seemingly a bigger deal. Goff didn't look super comfortable out there, but as you're looking at these odds here, the Packers Super Bowl odds tied for 5th longest at plus 1,200. Who do you like most in the North? I know we got 2 teams to go tonight, but who do you like right now?
Well, the team that I like the most in the North, my Minnesota Vikings.
Tell me more.
And when I sat down with Justin Jefferson and KO before the season, I told him, this love for the Vikings it's so deep now, Kay, that I got to cheer for a Michigan man at quarterback because my love for the purple supersedes my hate for Michigan. So what they did, interior offense and defensive line, the ugly stuff that people don't want to talk about. I do believe that Flores now can play not with smoke and mirrors, but he can play with force. We can take people out of their running game. We're going to continue to create turnovers. We're going to have a bunch of sacks. And KO, by the time we get to Thanksgiving, I think J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota fans will be well acquainted in that offense, because I've seen him do it with a lot less. And I think a lot of our faith is in who KO is, what he's done with quarterbacks who have less talent, less athletes, less arm strength, and they have put up great numbers since he's been there. And the offensive personnel is excellent, especially when we get Jordan Addison back after this short suspension. for an incident that he was involved in a couple years ago.
They have it all going on. My take on this team all offseason was you have no reason to not win the Super Bowl because you weren't interested in Aaron Rodgers. So that must mean you have so much faith in JJ McCarthy for being the one that can win the big game. Okay. Believe in KC.
Yeah, we couldn't do Aaron Rodgers. We had already done Brett Favre, and that took us a while to recover from. We couldn't do the Aaron Rodgers.
You could have, but you didn't. And I thought that meant tremendous faith in this team in the young JJ McCarthy, who people are resistant to buying in until they see something, which they might, of course, see against the Chicago defense tonight. You spoke to Justin. He has Justin. I'm sure that's where a little bit of your confidence in him comes from. But when it comes to JJ McCarthy, what is Hall of Famer, legend Cris Carter seeing that's letting you buy in on the Michigan man?
Well, the thing about it is, met his family too in the off season. He's had great support around him. He's gone to great programs, went to a great high school program, played a very, very competitive schedule from a national standpoint. I mean, he went to Michigan. And yes, I wish that he would have thrown the ball more at Michigan, but they were winning games. And the number one stat for a quarterback is, do you win and do you lose? And being a national champion there, I do believe with the scouting department, seeing enough as far as arm strength, overall athletic ability. And I'm going to compare him to someone else. I'm going to compare him to Sam Darnold. And without the scars, because Sam Darnold, he had pretty much won at every level, was very, very good, highly recruited in high school, went to USC, Banner, supposed to be up for the Heisman Trophy. A lot of positive things happened until the Jets. And a lot of this league, Kay, it's not about how good you are. It's about where you go and what type of support system they have around you, because this will make or break your career. So he doesn't have all that scar tissue around him, throwing interceptions and his home fans booing him, people burning jerseys and all those things that young quarterbacks and young players go through. So I do believe the supporting cast, what they put around him and what he's doing to bring himself up to speed in his second year, which is like his first year, it's going to be exciting to see. Now, these road games, especially starting off, like you got to try to get through. You got to try to get your team on the winning bus. But it's not going to be by chuck down Charlie. They're going to be throwing the ball down the field. They're going to be very, very creative about it. And that's the faith that, as you're a football fan, that you have to have in KO and seeing what he's done with some of the personnel that's come through that building from a quarterback's and a talent standpoint.
I think they're going to throw. I think you're right. I'm looking at FanDuel Sportsbook right now. JJ McCarthy, first start in the NFL, 220 and a half yards. Over under.
220, Chicago's defense, Monday night. I'm going to go under that, but I'm going to go with a good game because I'm expecting Jefferson to get about 125 of that.
Jefferson's line for receiving yards is disrespectful, by the way. 77 and a half for JJ.
Well, let's get on. He was looking good. Me, him, and Larry Fitzgerald were working out this offseason. Larry's son, Devin, he's going to be going to Notre Dame in 2026 in January, enrolling there. So JJ looked very, very good. We know he missed about 20 practices, but talking to some people that I know in the building, and Keenan McCarter is really ready for him to have an amazing year. And just another little nugget. I know he's facing a 2-game suspension, but fantasy, grab Jordan Addison. I mean, Keenan McCarter cannot talk highly enough. When I'm trying to talk about JJ, he said, hey, let me tell you about Jordan. Let me tell you what he's getting ready to do this year. And he's so quiet. He's such the anti-receiver diva type. He's so quiet that people would not recognize him. But his talent level, I do believe, will stand out, especially with the young quarterback, JJ, and the receiver, JJ, getting a lot of attention. Jordan Addison, huge year for the Purple.
I went to 18 training camps, saw a lot of touchdowns. Emeka Egbuka, one of them, but I will say the Jordan Addison, I know we'll get to Emeka here in a second, but Jordan Addison caught one while I was at camp and JJ was back on the field. It stuck with me, this Jordan Addison touchdown. So JJ McCarthy's in good hands. Excited to see. You think they're going to throw a ton, which I love. I hear Justin Jefferson's in store for a big night, which nobody's surprised by, but we're certainly looking forward to. And then on the other side, the Bears are full of questions. It is the unveiling, Chris. It is. We just talked about Ben Johnson. So before we take a break here, let's dig into the Chicago side. You so eloquently have spoken, so like Caleb's got it all. But I remember you telling me, like, we just need to see consistency. We need to see consistency week to week. What are you expecting to see, as you know, B-Flow is going to blitz him all night long?
Well, the number one thing from the time he's been in the building, that Ben Johnson's been a prick. And with a lot of these quarterbacks, and you hear Tom Brady talk about it just a little bit, but Bill Belichick, not hard for us to understand, he was such a prick to Tom Brady. And Tom just developed this just toughness that it's hard to now, especially in today's age where you can't hit the quarterbacks, you can't practice, like it's hard to make them tough. It's hard to put them in enough tough situations. So I do believe that Ben Johnson, his whole tough approach to Caleb from the first press conference, which Caleb was there, I do believe it's going to be very, very different than any type of coaching he's gotten in college. And that prolonged holding on to the ball, that's going to be over. And I believe that Ben Johnson is going to change that immediately. And when you take that away, because when people were evaluating his talent, they were like, oh, yeah, he makes plays. That's not a good trait unless you're Michael Vick, unless you're Lamar. Like these guys aren't. Like Shador, he held on to the ball too long in college. Caleb held on to the ball too long in college. It's a bad trait to have coming into the National Football League. I believe once we're able to cut that down, you're going to be able to see some of the special things that he can do with his arm talent. And I do believe he's going to develop into a great, great leader, because I do believe he's got it in him. He's got that type of charisma that people will follow him.
Cris, you're a busy man. You're a Hall of Famer. You're living your life in Florida. I know you're watching the Viking side. There was a piece that was put out by by a man named Tyler Dunn. Okay, it's called House of Dysfunction, and it was dropped recently. And there's 3 parts to it, and it is all about Caleb Williams and maybe his part in what didn't happen as far as last year with work habits and leadership. Like you're saying, there was a part in it where there was an interaction where a coach is trying to coach him. Allegedly, reportedly, he walked away from coaches, so that wasn't even the adjective that was used. And then how that translates to the field. To go back in the past is a tough one for me right now, and I just want to be excited about the Bears. But is it fair to say that whatever might have happened, the accountability sort of been, is what you're saying? Like, why should this be a non-story, a non-issue if it were to be?
Well, Kay, we know the truth. And a lot of times, even as reporters, and we have relationships with these guys, sometimes we just try to let a little bit out because we don't really think that because they're such professional people that their private life should be out there. But when you are immature, when you don't have the work habits of a pro, when you're not the CEO of the Chicago Bears the way you're supposed to be the CEO, these types of things are going to get out the building. Like you can only protect them so much. And I say this all the time. If there's some smoke, something in the wood pile typically is on fire. And myself as a young professional, I had problems, and coaches finally got me to listen in certain way and saying things a certain way. Like there are certain voices in this league that will change your life. And if he's smart enough to realize what the opportunity here with this franchise, a landmark franchise, Chicago Bears, being the quarterback, the first one to throw for over 4,000 yards this season, and Ben Johnson, with all that money they gave him, a lot of times when you see that guarantee as a player, you're like, okay, he's going to be here. Let me not try to buck the system. And I hope that that was the marriage from the first time they met at the press conference and what they've communicated since then, that if you're a great player, submit your talent to the coach, and the coach will bring the greatness out of you. And that's what he's dependent on with Ben Johnson. Submit your talent every single day, and we're going to get the best out of Caleb Williams, the Chicago Bears, what they drafted and their whole expectations for him when they drafted him.
Well said. We're going to take a short TV break. We're talking to the legend, Cris Carter. We need to get to, this is why you should subscribe to the YouTube, everybody, because we're going to get into the Giants and what should happen right now. Cris, you're amazing. This Giant situation, it makes me look at, I don't even know who to go to and say, is this you? Is this you? I was a little like unenthused Russell completed less than 50% of his passes, no touchdowns in this loss to a powerhouse, to the Commanders, who we have no questions about, right? I'd like you to listen to Brian Daboll together with me about the quarterback situation after the game.
Will you consider starting Jackson next week?
Yeah, look, we're going to get home, Pat. We're going to look at our game. Collectively, we all got to do better.
Is it safe to say that Russell is still your starter?
Yeah, I mean, we're just right here after the game. I got confidence. We got to do better around overall.
Non-committal. If you're him, why are you shaking your head?
I mean, that is not what you want. If I'm the quarterback, Russell Wilson, that's not what I want. And then it takes me back to draft day. And this is one of the reasons why they didn't draft Shedeur. Because of things just like this. Could you imagine if Shedeur was in New York? Now, they still would have had a veteran to start off the season. Imagine the Shedeur Sanders questions. And with Daboll and the general manager, with their necks being on the line this year, a make or break year, they don't want to answer those questions. So they'll probably tell you, yeah, Jackson Dart, yeah, we liked him a lot more. But why would you be questioning Russell when you know his resume after one game? And Russell didn't play bad enough that you think about yanking him. So for me, the Giants, you're talking about a team in disarray, no direction, because Jackson Dart is not ready to play, not with that offense. And I would be really concerned about my star receiver. That's what I really would be concerned about, because he's the best player on the offense, and I would be concerned about getting him happy. And yesterday, he was not happy. And when we are not happy, we will make people's lives miserable. So they got real issues in New York. We've been through free agency. We've been through the draft. We've been through training camp, and they haven't gotten any better. And that's discouraging after week number one. That's not an overreaction.
What should they do here?
Where are you going with Russell Wilson? What do you think that Russell maxed out at this stage of career with those offensive personnel? What do you think? I mean, how many games do you think you can win going against Washington, Dallas, and Philly? Realistically, because when you sit down with the owner, what kind of lie do you tell him? Oh, we can win 6, we can win 7, oh, we can win 8. No. You'd be like, no, I don't think we can win 8 games. Well, okay, then let's draft a young kid. Let's put him in there, get him the reps, and let him play. Because if you're not making the playoffs or you just drafted a kid you traded up for and you don't believe that he's got enough to play right now, well, you drafted the wrong guy. But it's obviously Russell is a Band-Aid. It's obvious Jameis is there still as a Band-Aid in case someone gets hurt. You need to play Jackson Dart, because that's the only thing going to give the fans, the general manager and the head coach, any encouragement about the future, because they drafted.
Gosh, I don't know. This is why I'm so, I don't know.
You can disagree with me.
No, I don't. I don't know. I think your main point is, what did they do? Right? Where did they pin themselves into where this is, I know this. I don't want to put, just like I wouldn't with Shedeur, if they took him, I would not want to put him out there right now. I think the offensive line looked horrible yesterday. I think I don't want Jackson to have any problem with his development. I think the schedule is brutal. And I look at Daniel Jones yesterday, and I know it's one game, and we're thriving with a flourishing with an offensive line, looking like he did not.
Yeah. Some of those things can happen, but Jackson Dart has more passing ability than Daniel had coming into the NFL. He was a better college football player. So to compare them to be in the same situation, I'm going to put you in the situation of, and they're not this guy, but I got to put you in this guy into the equation, Troy Aikman.
Okay.
Man, he got banged up. They put him out there, and guess what? The Troy Aikman came up out of there. So if this guy's supposed to be a player, he will come up out of it. He will turn the franchise around if he's that guy. If he's not that guy, then the same thing happens to all these other quarterbacks. but we got to give him a chance to be able to fight, to be special. That's why you draft a guy in the top 10. Like, you don't draft him to sit, not in this day and age. Not given the
I don't know.
opposition.
Part of
we
me
have.
is like, Chris, part of me is like, put in Jameis. No?
Why? What's Jameis going to do?
A spark, complete more than 50% of his passes, make Malik Neighbors happy. Use a guy who I look at Malik Neighbors. I don't see you totally, you're a Hall of Fame, but I see that's who I think is most like you, like I want to make,
he's talented.
Yeah. I want to make him do his thing. I don't know what the answer is, but it's a tough okay. Based off what you're saying, you brought up Shedeur a bunch in this. I haven't asked you about Shedeur, but you're bringing up, should they have drafted Shedeur? Based on what we saw even just yesterday.
Dayball was worried about his job, so no. And they were worried about the publicity that Shedeur should have, and he didn't do well in the interviews with them. So 3 no's. They shouldn't have done it, but they were also trying to avoid yesterday. Because instead of Jackson Dart, it would have been more explosive and polarizing if they would have been Shedeur. So they actually did accomplish something there, but they still were trying to draft a quarterback. It's not like they went Abdul Carter, something, we believe he's a higher ranked player. Yeah, he is. He definitely is. But no, we don't need a quarterback. We're going a different direction. Oh, no, we're getting Carter, and we still need a quarterback that we believe is ranked higher than Shedeur. So if you're going to trade up and make that, then you got to play.
Chris.
Like you have to play. Everyone is consumed with this. Oh man, Patrick Mahomes, he sat and then we let him play at the end of the year. They don't have Alex Smith there.
Now, I have such a, why isn't Russell the guy? Why, not with the Broncos, not with Pittsburgh, why shouldn't he be the guy? Isn't that why we did this? Why isn't he the guy? Why isn't it Russell Wilson?
Russell has hit his genetic ceiling. All right. He is bumping his head on his genetic ceiling, which he's overcome the height. He's overcome that. But Russell is not a great passer of the football, short and intermediate. He's got a great long ball, and he's a very good leader, and people respect him and everything. But if he don't have a bunch of killers and stuff around him, they never had a great passing attack in Seattle. I remember Doug Baldwin them got mad at me because I said they were an appetizer, not the entree, because they had beast mode in the defense and Pete Carroll. So all the receivers got mad at me, especially Doug Baldwin, but you guys are. No one's put no great game plan worrying about Seattle's passing attack. And that's no personal indictment on the receivers. It's their passing game is not a great passing game. He's never been anywhere where they could throw the ball great. Where have we been under that preconceived idea that, oh man, he's great at throwing the ball?
Because
when they were pretty good. They were pretty good at NC State. They were not great at Wisconsin. They were better than what they had, but Wisconsin ain't got no pro quarterbacks. So we're under this illusion that, hey, man, Russ has piled up all these numbers and everything. Most of those numbers are mediocre as far as.
So we're now questioning whether or not, I'm questioning, is Russell Wilson a good quarterback in my head? Based on
at this point, at this point in his career, that's a real question. It's not, you're not questioning his career, you're questioning today. This is about what you can do today. This is not what about your highlight tape. Hey, bring me back your highlight tapes. Let me see them. Over the last 8 years, no, baby. This is about what can you do in the next 8 days. That's what this is about.
I got a couple of things I need to squeeze in with you. I know my mind's in a pretzel about some of the things. So I love talking to you and getting your insight. I do want to take it back to Friday night with these Chiefs. They lose to the Chargers. The Chargers kicked the Chiefs' butt in Brazil to kick off their season. On the Chiefs side, no Rashee Rice, which they weren't potentially planning for in the offseason. If that comes down, they don't have him for these 6 games, 5 more. Now Xavier Worthy gets hurt 3 snaps in. Huge part of their offense. Of course, you could sort of tell that was they had to go back to dinking and dunking without him. How much trouble are the Chiefs in, Chris?
Well, the Chiefs have real problems. And I do believe that the curse of losing the Super Bowl, like I don't believe they're going to win 13 games this year, but I still believe that they'll be in the playoffs. And they're going to be a tough team. But when you see their marquee players, when you see one of their defenders calling out Chris Jones for lack of integrity, lost his contained line, trying to freelance to try to win a game, end up losing the game, allows Herbert to gain all those yards getting outside the pocket. Because when you're winning, it's a good little deodorant to keep the stench off of you. But there have been things going on around Kansas City, and the lack of development of the receivers has been one of them with Patrick Mahomes. But when you start getting people calling people out and telling them to do your damn job, because that's what he told them to do, I'm sorry, I'm worried about Kansas City. I'm worried about Travis Kelce, because guess what used to didn't happen? Rice being out, Worthy hurt, Kelce could take over the game. He can't dominate no more. Like, I remember at the stage of my career where it was like, I got to be honest with myself. I think I'm going to be a little more possession than trying to take over this game. Like, at some point, it's a reality that we all face. And don't give me that, he's in the best shape ever. I saw it. He was down here in Boca training, him and his fiance living over in Royal Palm and everything. That's a hard lifestyle to keep up with. Okay? Like, that's hard to keep up with, Kate. And I do believe that all these things, it's going to be hard for them to regain their focus and be one of the elite teams. I believe there's several teams in the NFL that are better than them, and they're going to really struggle until they get Rice back week number 7.
Let's say it's some Ravens or Ravens, Bills, one in the AFC. Let's say 1 and 2, 1A. Who's 3? Is it Chargers? Who's 3 in the AFC?
Right now, I would still say, the Chargers just beat them. They're not used to beating. It could be the Chargers because the head-to-head, a neutral site. But let me go. Can I take Denver?
Okay, yeah, you can.
Okay, I'll take Denver. Denver's going to be somewhere in there.
Cris Carter, you're a legend. Who wins tonight? Vikings bye.
Let's go Vikings. Win on a late field goal. We win by 4 points, though. We're up by 1. We drive it down. JJ makes a big catch. We kick the field goal, win by 4.
I didn't think I was going to get all that. You're an absolute legend. Appreciate you. And congrats to Ohio State, by the way. Looking good.
Oh, let's do that because we got other stuff to talk about.
We do. Our show's over, though. Cris, I appreciate you. Amazing insight. I need more time with you.